Welcome to the Supreme Grammar Podcast, where you'll learn to write like a Supreme Court Justice. With me, Jill Barton. Today, our AI hosts are diving into the first step in persuasive writing, drafting your conclusion and point headings. Think of these as the headlines of your document, your very first chance to make your case. Let's listen in.
Welcome to another deep dive, everybody. This time we're talking all about persuasive legal writing. This one's especially for you, first-year law students, out there kind of figuring out this whole legal writing thing.
You can be a bit of a maze at times, right?
Totally. So we're going to be unpacking a key skill that you'll be tackling during your second semester persuasive writing.
It's a big one, but don't worry. We're here to break down what actually makes legal writing persuasive.
Yeah, and give you some actual tips so you can really excel.
You've probably noticed that your first semester was all about objective writing.
Right.
Analyzing and predicting legal outcomes, almost like being a referee.
Exactly.
But get ready for a big shift in your second semester. You're going to need to put on your advocate hat because it's all about persuasion.
So it's like a whole different ballgame.
It really is. You're no longer just analyzing. You're actively trying to convince the reader, often a judge, to rule in your client's favor.
Wow, that sounds like a huge change. I remember feeling a little overwhelmed when I first started learning about persuasive writing.
It's definitely a transition.
I remember cracking open the handbook for the new legal writer by Jill Barton and Rachel Smith, and it was like entering a whole new world.
Oh, for sure.
Can you talk a bit about what this shift really means? Like, what does it actually mean to write persuasively?
Well, think of it like this. Persuasive writing is all about building a strong case. You're presenting the facts and the law in a clear and logical way to support your client's position. Imagine you're building a house. Your facts are the bricks, the law is the mortar, and your arguments are the framework that holds it all together.
Okay, so you need to present a compelling narrative that goes beyond simply stating your client's side. You have to demonstrate why, legally speaking, your client deserves to win.
Exactly. You're not just informing anymore, you're convincing.
What I find fascinating here is how your entire approach to writing changes.
Absolutely. Objective right is all about being neutral, just laying out the law and the facts impartially.
Right.
But persuasive writing is different. You're selecting and presenting information strategically to build the strongest possible case for your client.
Okay, so persuasive writing is about advocating for your client by building a strong case. The handbook also really emphasizes the conclusion as a key element in persuasive writing. And it's not just a summary, is it?
No, definitely not. The conclusion is your chance to really grab the reader's attention right off the bat, to make your case. Think of it as your opening statement, but in writing. It's where you lay out your client's position and why they should prevail.
I see. You're basically making your strongest points right up front.
Exactly. You want the reader to understand your position and your reasoning from the very beginning.
The book gives a really interesting example to illustrate this. A case about a guy who put a for sale sign on his vintage VW Beetle as a joke, for a ridiculously low price. His neighbor thought he was serious and tried to accept the offer and then sued for breach of contract when the owner refused to sell.
That's a classic example.
It sounds like a perfect case to illustrate some of the techniques we can use to write a persuasive conclusion.
It really is, and we can actually walk through the steps the authors outline to analyze how to write a really great conclusion for that case.
Okay, I'm ready. What's the first step?
The first step is to identify the relief requested and the issue.
Okay.
So basically, what does your client want the court to do, and what's the legal question that needs to be answered?
So in the VW case, the relief requested would be for the court to dismiss the lawsuit.
Exactly.
And the legal issue is whether a valid offer to sell the car even existed.
Perfect. You've got it.
Yeah.
So that brings us to step 2. Stating your conclusion and giving a reason. In your conclusion, you'd clearly state that the court should dismiss the lawsuit and then give your reason, which is because there was no valid offer to begin with. And you'd back that up with a concise explanation referencing key facts and the law on offers.
Got it. So be direct and hit the judge with your main point right off the bat.
Exactly. Clarity is key.
Makes sense. Now, the book also talks about developing a theme.
Yeah.
What does that mean in this context?
It's about finding a memorable way to frame the case from your client's perspective, something that will resonate with the reader. For example, in the VW case, you might develop a theme that centers around protecting people from being bound by jokes or casual conversations. The idea that everyday interactions shouldn't be misconstrued as binding legal agreements.
Oh, I like that. That makes a lot of sense. I remember the book gave the example of Florida v. Jardines. the case about whether using a drug-sniffing dog on a homeowner's porch was an illegal search. The defense built their entire argument around a theme of protecting the sanctity of the home.
Right.
And it's really compelling.
Absolutely. A strong theme like that can make your argument much more persuasive and memorable. It gives the reader something to connect with on an emotional level.
So it's not just about the legal technicalities, it's about the bigger picture.
Exactly. Now, the last technique the authors mention is drafting point headings for your conclusion.
Point headings.
These are basically like headlines for your legal arguments. They're essential for clarity and impact.
Okay.
They act like signposts, guiding the reader through your argument and highlighting your key points. They make your conclusion much easier to follow and understand.
So it's about breaking down your argument into bite-sized pieces.
Right. For example, one point heading in the VW case might be, "A joke does not constitute a valid offer under contract law."
Okay, that's clear and to the point.
Exactly. It's direct and persuasive.
So to recap, for all our first-year law students out there, we're moving from objective to persuasive writing. We're advocating, building a case, and using tools like themes and point headings to persuade the reader. What an exciting transition.
It is. And a little daunting, perhaps.
Definitely. Is there anything else our listeners should keep in mind as they start thinking about this shift from objective to persuasive writing?
Yes, absolutely. The handbook also mentions that you'll need to be aware of how your tone shifts as you move into persuasive writing. It might sound obvious, but you can't exactly be neutral anymore.
Right, of course.
Yeah.
But how do you advocate for your client without sounding, too biased? It feels like a fine line to walk there.
Oh, it is, absolutely. You need to be assertive, definitely, but also credible. A judge isn't going to be persuaded by writing that's like overly emotional or dismissive of the other side's arguments, you know?
Yeah, that makes sense. So how do you find that balance?
Well, one of the key things is to focus on the facts and the law.
Oh, okay.
Let the evidence and the legal precedent do the heavy lifting.
I see. That reminds me of what we were talking about earlier, using themes and point headings in the conclusion.
Yeah.
Those are great techniques for framing your arguments in a persuasive way without resorting to, emotional appeals or hyperbole.
Exactly. It's all about using the tools of legal reasoning and rhetoric to build that solid case for your client.
This is all starting to sound a bit intimidating, but I'm beginning to understand how legal writing can be a really powerful tool.
It is.
It's more than just like following rules and citing cases, right?
Right.
It's about using language strategically to advocate for your client, persuade the reader.
That's a great way to put it. And remember, you're not expected to master all of these skills overnight. Legal writing is a craft. It's something you'll develop and refine over time.
Right.
The more you practice, the more confident and effective you'll become.
That makes sense. Practice makes perfect, as they say.
Yeah.
This might be a good place to kind of pivot back to the book's discussion on point headings. Can we maybe unpack that a bit more? It seems like there's a real art to crafting those persuasive headlines.
Absolutely. The authors really stress how important it is to keep those point headings concise, readable, ideally no more than like 3 or 4 lines.
Yeah. Like a legal haiku, short, impactful, memorable.
Exactly.
And the authors use some great examples from that Florida v. Jardines case to illustrate this point.
Right. They point out that one of the headings actually reads, "The sniff of a detector dog outside along the ordinary path to the front door did not violate the sanctity of Jardines' grow house."
Wow.
It kind of emphasizes the non-intrusive nature of the dog sniff. And at the same time, it subtly reinforces that theme of protecting the home.
Yeah, I see that. It's like they're framing the facts in a way that sort of preempts a counter-argument.
Precisely. They're not just stating a fact, they're shaping how the reader is going to perceive that fact.
Oh, that's clever. And there's another heading from that same brief. Kylo's prohibition on the use of imaging devices does not apply to dog sniffs.
Yes.
This one seems more focused on distinguishing a potentially unfavorable precedent.
Yeah, it is. They're acknowledging a case that, might initially seem relevant or applicable, but then they explain very concisely why it actually doesn't apply.
So they're getting ahead of any potential misinterpretations.
Exactly. It prevents the reader from drawing their own, possibly incorrect conclusions.
It's like playing legal chess, anticipating your opponent's moves and addressing them before they even make them.
You got it. Persuasive writing is very much about strategic thinking. You're anticipating potential objections and addressing them head on.
Okay, so we've established that effective point headings should be concise, impactful, and, strategically crafted to really guide the reader's understanding of the legal issues and the arguments.
Precisely. Mastering this skill will definitely make your writing much more persuasive.
While we're on the topic of all these nuances of persuasive writing, something that I found really interesting in the handbook is that legal writing seems quite different from other types of writing.
Oh, absolutely. Legal writing has its own unique set of rules and conventions and expectations, of course. It's very precise and formal and very structured around legal precedent and logical reasoning.
Yeah, the book really emphasizes how important it is to kind of adopt a different mindset when approaching legal writing.
Yeah.
You're not just expressing your personal opinions, right?
Right.
You're presenting legal arguments that are supported by evidence.
Yes, you have to kind of detach yourself from your personal views and focus on building a persuasive case based on the law and the facts.
And it seems like there's also a strong emphasis on clarity and conciseness in legal writing. Every word has to have a purpose, right?
Absolutely. Judges and attorneys are busy people, so they don't have time to decipher confusing language or wade through, a ton of irrelevant material.
I see.
Your writing has to be direct and easy to follow and just get straight to the point.
So no more long-winded college essays or, poetic detours.
Well, I mean, good storytelling can be persuasive in the right context, but even then, it needs to be rooted in the relevant legal principles and case law.
All of this makes me wonder, how does your audience factor into legal writing? You're always writing for a specific reader, right? Like a judge, opposing counsel, or even your own client.
That's an excellent point. You absolutely need to tailor your writing to your audience, keeping in mind their level of legal knowledge.
Okay, yeah.
For example, you might use more formal language and focus more on legal precedent when you're writing for a judge. But then you'd explain those legal issues more simply and highlight the practical implications when you're writing for a client.
That's a really good point. This is a lot to take in, but it's fascinating. It's like learning a new language, the language of the law.
Yeah.
And then being able to use that language to build these persuasive arguments.
Exactly. And while mastering legal writing takes time and practice, you are learning this really powerful skill set.
Right.
A skill set that'll allow you to advocate for your clients and actually influence legal outcomes, which can make a real difference in people's lives.
It really drives home the fact that we are learning how to use the power of language to make a real difference in the world.
Yes. And that's what makes legal writing such a challenging and rewarding career.
This has been incredibly enlightening. Learning about the intricacies of persuasive legal writing has really helped me understand how my first semester is laying the foundation for this whole new set of skills that I'm going to be learning in the second semester.
And remember, this deep dive is a great foundation in persuasive writing, but it's really just the beginning. You'll be building on these skills throughout law school and beyond, really.
So for all of our first-year law students out there tuning in, as you head into your second semester and you start diving into persuasive writing, what are some of the key things to keep in mind?
Well, I think the biggest shift is really going from just explaining the law to actively shaping the law to support your client's case. You're going to need to understand how to apply those legal principles and those precedents strategically to really make your argument.
Right, and we talked about how the conclusion is a key part of that whole transition. It's really your chance to grab the reader's attention, clearly state the outcome you want, and then give them those persuasive reasons why they should rule in your client's favor.
Absolutely. And don't forget the power of themes. Remember, framing your case around a memorable idea that resonates with the reader can make your arguments even more persuasive.
Right, like we were saying with those examples from the Florida v. Jardines case.
Exactly. And speaking of persuasive, don't forget those point headings, those persuasive headlines that guide the reader through your argument.
Right, those legal haikus.
Keep them concise, impactful, and think strategically about how you're using them to shape the reader's understanding of the issues and your argument.
It's clear that legal writing is a whole different animal. That emphasis on precision, formality, logical reasoning, it's a lot.
It is. Every word needs to have a purpose. Be clear, be concise in your writing, don't lose your reader.
And don't forget to tailor your writing to your audience.
Exactly. Whether you're writing for a judge, an attorney, a client, you need to adjust your language and your tone accordingly.
This deep dive has been incredibly insightful. It's really given me a much better grasp of persuasive legal writing and all the different nuances. And it's also helped me see how the skills we're learning in our first year really lay the foundation for this whole new level of writing and analysis in the second year.
And remember, you're developing a skill set that can make a real difference in the world. By mastering persuasive writing, you can effectively advocate for your clients and shape legal outcomes.
It's inspiring to think that we're learning how to use the power of our words to impact people's lives.
Exactly. And that's what makes being a lawyer such a challenging and rewarding profession.
Well, on that note, I think that's a fantastic place to wrap things up. We hope you've all enjoyed this deep dive into the fascinating world of persuasive legal writing.
Absolutely. You've got this. Embrace the challenges ahead, keep honing your skills, and never underestimate the power of your words.
Until next time, keep those legal minds sharp, and we'll catch you on our next deep dive into another fascinating world of knowledge.
Mastering persuasive writing means more than just writing strong sentences. It means advocating for your clients, shaping outcomes, and changing lives. You'll find more tips in chapters 25 and 26 of the Handbook for the New Legal Writer. And always remember, you can be a great legal writer.